Sabah al-Khair, good morning dear listeners. You're listening to Radio 3CR on 855 AM and Palestine Remembered with Robert Martin, Nasser Mashni and Yusuf Ahmed al-Rimawi.
Palestine Remembered is Australia's only English language radio program that is totally dedicated to Palestine. We'd like to welcome those listening on 855 and those that will join us on podcast at 3cr.org.au.
Thanks for joining us. Stay with us and enjoy the episode.
Bringing you the news and views and the untold side of the Palestinian struggle for freedom from a Palestinian perspective. Morning, Rob. How are you?
Mate, I'm very well. Been Father's Day this week, been my birthday this week, so I've had a fantastic week. And also, I'm looking very much forward to our guest. People may know him very well, so I look forward to speaking with him very shortly. What about you?
Well, I didn't have a birthday, but I had Father's Day, so that was pretty cool. We are fast approaching a period of time when we might be able to get out, but I don't know when that's going to be. In the meantime, we'll just continue to suffer lockdowns. But the good news, Rob, the good news is we're joined by a special guest, founder extraordinaire, former co-host, now occasional special correspondent, Mr. Yusuf Ahmed al-Rimawi.
Hello, Nasser. Hello, Robert. I have missed you guys. I have missed being on the show, and I would like to say big hello to all my dear listeners. And it's great to be with you guys again.
I wish you could see my face. I have a massive smile on my face from all the memories that the three of us being in the studio, laughing our heads off, trying to contain ourselves.
Yes.
Good times, good memories.
I miss these days, but I'm glad they can't see my face because of the mustaches. So it's okay.
Yeah, you're looking very presidential, Yusuf.
Dictatorial presidential.
That's more like what I would say, yes.
It's not like any Arabs do democracy, but anyway.
I know. Sometimes we like to be creative and call it democracy when it is not.
So it's no longer creative. It used to be creative. Now it's just a standard plan, brother.
Yes.
Yusuf, we've got a very special person we need to honor today, and I know that's the basis of which you've joined us. But before that, we should extol the virtues of the magnificent Jenin 6. And for our listeners that don't know, they escaped from Gilboa prison. This was a prison that was designed apparently to be unescapable, but these magnificent Palestinian resistance fighters used a spoon to dig themselves out underneath a toilet and got out. They escaped. Apparently one of the guards fell asleep. These amazing guys came out next to a watchtower one at a time and have escaped. They still haven't been captured. The Israelis have arrested their family. The Israelis have now harassed other prisoners in other prisons, putting a collective punishment on all Palestinians, which is against international law, as we know. There are riots now and some of the prisons in parts on fire. But one of the funniest things, I think, aside from the Shawshank Redemption spoon meme pictures that have been shared around the internet, is the hundreds of phone calls of people calling the police saying that they've spotted them, except the spotting was actually Palestinians to divert all the Israeli police all over the joint. It was really funny.
Let's break down this amazing...
Tell us. You can't just brush over this.
Yes, exactly. Well, first of all, we're talking about more than 6,000 Palestinian prisoners at the moment. At any given time, there are more than 5,000 Palestinian prisoners in Israel. I mean, and when I say in Israel, I don't recognize Israel, but I want the listeners to know that the prisoners who are predominantly from West Bank are kept held in another territory in violation to human rights, to international law. According to international law, it is a crime for any occupying power to detain prisoners outside from their territories. And Israel has been doing that since 1967. So that's number one. Number two, Jalbour prison, like you said, Nasser, is, Israel used to brag about it and being one of the most secured places or prisons in the world, has now been broken, not by one or two, by 6 prisoners in one hit. So this is a big embarrassment to the institution that provides itself, that promotes its industries and the security apparatus of Israel around the world. But also, like you said, Nasser, the sarcasm and the humorous part of the story is another form of resistance where people actually are rejoicing the self-liberation and another synonym of escape of these six freedom fighters, five from Islamic Jihad and one from Fatah. But like we said, this is one turning point of Palestinian steadfastness history.
So they still haven't been captured, and long may they stay free. Yusuf, I know we want to dedicate, there's probably 3 or 4 shows that we need to put aside for our late Dr. Shafeeq Al-Ghabra. He passed away in Kuwait, age 68. He's a Palestinian exiled from Haifa, grew up in Kuwait. Why don't you take us through from his Nakba journey, Yusuf, and to where sadly he passed this past week?
Thank you, Nasser. Shafeeq Al-Ghabra was one of the Palestinians who was made up of a unique blend. He was a politician. He played an important role in the politics of not only Palestine, but also Kuwait, because he was a dual citizen. He was an intellectual, one of the renowned academics in the field of international relations and politics in the Middle East. And he was a fighter. He was he joined the Palestinian Revolution since a young age. So to talk about his legacy, like you said, I mean, we have to do justice to him, but we'll do our best, Nasser. So if you want to start from where he is from, Shafeeq Al-Ghabra is from Haifa, from the father's side, and from Tabariya, from the mother's side. And he was born in Kuwait in 1952. And what's interesting is that his grandfather was a medical doctor. He was a graduate of the American University in Beirut in 1928. So we're talking about a highly educated family from both sides. His father was also a medical doctor. So he is the product of this family who valued education in time where illiteracy was still very high in Palestine. So I guess like the rest of the Palestinians who were driven out from their homes and villages in 1948, his father was driven. He was a medical doctor working for a petrol or oil refinery, which was run and managed by the British Mandate before 48. But the buildup of Nakba, and one thing that Dr. Shafeeq wrote in his memoir, is that the Nakba is not the events that took place around the month of May 1948. In fact, it is the year before and probably a few months after 48. And this buildup was described in details in his memoir, and especially in the city of Haifa, where the Zionists wanted to take a full control on. So his house, his father's house, was the target of terrorist Zionist organizations like Haganah and Stern and Irgun. Before the inception or the creation of Israel, his father was 25, and he decided to take his parents and younger siblings to a temporary safe haven in Cairo, and went back to Haifa. But unfortunately, he was driven out of Haifa after May 48, first to Lebanon, then to Iraq, then to Saudi Arabia, then to Kuwait, where he started a family, and then where Shafeeq Al-Ghabra was born 3 years later.
So Shafeeq grew up in Kuwait, but then he's educated in the United States, and that's probably at the University of Georgetown where things started to, well, he embraced his nationalism.
Yes, correct. In fact, I have to say that I discovered Shafeeq Al-Ghabra at a relatively a bit recent time. So I do, and this is something I'm not proud of, because Shafeeq Al-Ghabra has already been a name in the academia, but I didn't know that he was this big until he wrote his memoir in a form of a book that called Hayatun Ghayru Amina, Unsafe Life. And he also wrote an important book about the creation of the Palestinian statelessness in Kuwait, which is, in my opinion, the most important academic reference when it comes to the history of the Palestinian refugees, not only in Kuwait, but also in the Gulf, which is compared to the Palestinians of Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Egypt, and Iraq, is under researched and underrepresented.
What book was it, Yusuf? Just for those interested.
The book is called The Story of the Palestinian Statelessness of Kuwait.
Fantastic.
Yeah, this is in addition to his personal memoir. So in the time where he was in Kuwait, he was born in 1952. Now, to understand Kuwait in 52, it was not an independent state, but it was on its way for independence. And Kuwait was led by a leader who was visionary, was enlightened, who promoted openness, whether political openness. So Kuwait became the most politically diverse state in the Gulf countries, and also the most open, the most modern, even before independence. So he did that with the help of the ready-to-serve human population that became stateless from Palestine. So the Palestinians of Kuwait, in fact, were unique in a way, even if you compare them to the Palestinian of other Nicholas countries, neighboring countries to Palestine, because they were more like the expatriates as opposed to refugees. So the Palestinians fled Palestine to the north, to the Lebanon and Syria, and to the east to Jordan, and internally to West Bank and Gaza. And these became, of course, and still are, the refugees. But the second wave of immigration was for economic improvement reasons, and they went predominantly to the Gulf and particularly to Kuwait. So his father was one of the elite families of Kuwait, in a way that even the Emir of Kuwait, the ruler of Kuwait, asked him to be his personal doctor, his family doctor. And he was offered the Kuwaiti citizenship by the Emir himself, the father I'm talking, the Mr. Nazim Ghabra, the father of Shafeeq. So we're talking about one of the spearheads of the Palestinian community in Kuwait, and in time where the Palestinians in the 50s had to join whether Arab political parties, nationalism, Nasri, or regional parties like Islamist parties like Muslim Brotherhood or Tahrir, or international parties like the communist and socialist parties. So in this time, the Palestinians were like totally dependent on others who raised the flag of liberation of Palestine, and they totally believed in them, whether Jamal Abdel Nasser of Egypt, or the Ba'ath Party of Iraq and Syria, or maybe the left in the world. But unfortunately, the big shock of 1967 made them wake up and understand the concept of self-determination, that Palestine will never be liberated at the hand of non-Palestinians, and the time has come for Palestinian national movement to be born and to lead the struggle for liberation. And that was the making of what later became Fatah movement, who he joined at the age of as young as 15. So he was 15-year-old, a student in Kuwait. I mean, when we think of 15 years old, we think of students who are still undecided what to do in their life. In that time, it was old enough to take part in public sphere. So of course that story is worth telling, and maybe in future episodes we'll shed some light on it. But I want also to shed some light on a story that he shared in his childhood when his father was in the UK to pursue further education. So this is when he was 6 years old. His father went to UK to finish further higher education in medicine, and the dialogue between this grade 1 student and his British teacher, when she asked him where you are from, and he said, I'm from Palestine. And she said, there was no such thing called Palestine. It's now called Israel. And then he was old enough to tell her that no, Britain is the reason why there is no Palestine on the map. So we're talking about a boy as young as 6 who was able to even give the correct answer to his teacher. So a unique person by all measures.
At Georgetown University, but there he joined the Palestinian Student Union and really took off.
By the time he, of course, he was educated in Kuwait up until year 10, and then he finished year 11 and 12 in Lebanon in one of private companies, and private schools. And then from Lebanon, he went to the United States to study international relations or politics. When he went there, he straight away asked for who among the Palestinians or Arabs who are active in telling the story of Arab struggle. And I want to highlight one point, that Shafeeq was Palestinian, but he was also a pan-Arabist, meaning that the issues of the Arab world was as important as the liberation of Palestine to him, particularly in that time. So that's why he joined the student union, the Arab Student Union, and within less than 1 year, he was nominated to be the leader of that union in his city. And he spoke about important stages or turning point during that time. The first one is the visit of Golda Meir to the United States and the protest he organized in protest of her visit. The second one is 1974 Yasser Arafat General Assembly speech, the olive branch or Kalashnikov, the famous speech, where the Zionist assembly gathered half a million, and half a million is not an exaggeration, 500,000 Zionists protested against Yasser Arafat when he went to the United Nations, New York in 1974. So he joined, I can't call it a counter protest with a few thousand, but he was one of the spearheads of the protests. So he was active in the pro-Palestine and pro-Arab activism in his life in the United States. But one thing important is also that he paid extra attention to the importance of organizing lectures, debates, forums, and to tell the narrative of Palestinians in English to the American audience before he goes back to Lebanon and then start another chapter of his life.
So take us to Lebanon, then obviously to the founding of the American University in Kuwait.
Before the founding of the American University of Kuwait, we're now down to 1975. So he was a graduate from one of the finest universities in the world in this field. He went back to Kuwait, but his heart remained in the Palestinian revolution, and he told his family that he wants to, the Arabic word is yatafarragh. Yatafarragh is to leave his study, leave his work, and join the revolution. and something you can say that, to be a full-time member of the revolution. And of course, his parents were not very receptive to this, but they supported him anyway. So he went to Lebanon a month before the beginning of the civil war, with the hope that he will go to Lebanon and join the Palestinian resistance in Lebanon against the Israeli occupation. But unfortunately, the Lebanese war broke out a month later of that. And then he talks in his memoir how, unfortunately, he found himself in a situation where that's not why I wanted to be in Lebanon, but nevertheless, he managed to take part in resistance only, and as much as he could to focus only on I would say anti-Israel activities in Lebanon. And from there, from 75 to 81, he was in Lebanon, part of the Fatah and PLO resistance, until in 81 he decided to go back to Kuwait and start his career as an academic, and joined the University of Kuwait. And of course came the invasion. Before the beginning of the American University of Kuwait, the Iraqi invasion to Kuwait took place in 1990, and it changed the world, and we still live in the aftermath of the destruction in the region that happened afterward. So of course, being a dual citizen, he was in a way swimming against the stream that the majority of Palestinians were heading towards, because most Palestinians, whether we like it or not, supported in a way or another Saddam in 1990, and a few of them saw the danger of that, and he was one of that few people. And it turns out that he was right. And now we look back and we appreciate what he said and what he wrote, even though that his views in 1991 to 2000 were not popular at all among Palestinians. But after a successful academic life in Kuwait, and then he became the co-founding of the American University, which is another successful chapter of his academic life.
But we should also say, Yusuf, whilst he was a co-founder, the reality is, what was assigned to him was supervising the construction, designing the academic programs for the students, for the professors. And he did all of this in under 2 years. It's not a little job that he put together.
Yeah, unbelievable. I mean, we talk about one subject. I mean, I know what it means to design a program. I did some university work for 9 years, and it is a mammoth task to just lead the creation of a complete university from scratch. And he did that in less than 2 years, in time where Kuwait was there was some form of social criticism to the American University of Kuwait, and being accused of too much openness by conservatives, and the fact that this is foreign university in a conservative country. So there was several fronts he was fighting, and he managed to do it very efficiently.
I've got a couple of quotes of his, but this one I liked particularly about the university. He said, "A university is like a biological organism. It has to be ready to develop, has to activate humans' minds." And this is a stark difference to the way universities are now, institutionalized, money-making machines. The vice chancellors now are CEOs of business units, and these sorts of thought programs of, a university being an organic.
Brilliant.
It just doesn't happen anymore, that sort of thinking.
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
Brilliant.
I guess the legacy of Shafeeq Al-Ghabra is the life of Shafeeq was the life of the children of Nakba, from the ashes of Nakba, who rose and built a successful career, but also had to go through the frustration of 67 defeat and the hope of liberation after 65, the Palestinian liberation movement, and also the complicity of the region, particularly the Arab regimes, against the revolution, and of course the frustration that followed. So the life of Shafeeq Al-Ghabra is a live representation of the Palestinian cause since, I would say, the Nakba until today. So I encourage all our listeners, especially those who can read Arabic, to purchase. I hope his books were translated into English. I still don't know, but those who can access authentic documents, particularly in Arabic, I encourage them to buy his memoir, Haya Ghair Amina, Unsafe Life.
My Life is Unsafe is actually available in English. So it's called My Life is Unsafe. He was actually reviewing it when he passed.
Great. I'm really happy to have heard that it is in English. Fantastic.
So one of the things we should also talk about, I mean, he was very critical of Arab regimes. And one of the things he would say was the reality of social science professors in the Arab world is that they would leave teaching because teaching, and his quote is, laws do not protect university professors in most Arab countries. Therefore, the majority of professors prefer an administrative position over research that may lead to imprisonment or dismissal. The absence of various guarantees and caveats on research issues. And this is one of the things that, many of his students who went into the wider world, left the Arab world, all that thinking, all that brains, many of them refused to publish their thesis in Arabic for fear of their families getting...
intimidated, of course. I also want to say that he is a highly respected figure within the Kuwait, within the Kuwaiti society. So if you Google his name, you will see most of what was written about him in Arabic by Kuwaitis, not by Palestinians. Although that he was a big name in Palestine, but his legacy in Kuwait is as big and is more respected. Unfortunately, this is something that we Palestinians keep missing the opportunity one after the other. And I don't think that, we got the best out of this man in his lifetime.
No, you're right, Yusuf. And just to close the show, this is one of his most famous quotes. He says about his own personal life: the experience of the military struggle for about 6 years contributed to the development of my academic experience because it taught me to delve deeper into reading events and to have a broader understanding of the political movements of different ideologies and ways of interacting with reality. It also contributed to the development of a sense of recklessness and managerial or leadership positions, and the belief that my position of a university professor was the most suitable position for my personal choices. I mean, he challenged everything and everyone along the way, and sadly gone too soon.
Correct. I second everything you said, Nasser. And I think one thing we Palestinians around the world can do is to remember him in open heart and to embrace his legacy and to follow on his footsteps.
Indeed.
I tell you, those quotes that you just said make you really interested in listening and reading to him. It's brilliant.
Indeed.
Profound.
Unfortunately, another Palestinian brain and intellect denied his rights to the end. Yusuf, thanks for joining us today, and Robert.
Thank you, Nasser and Robert. And
we must do this again.
Of course.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you share the podcast, and remember, there's never been a better time for a free Palestine.